What's up, narrators? Welcome to our second ever episode of Coach Conversations we have going on here this evening. I'm excited for another instance of this second podcast we have on the Narrators Per Possession YouTube channel. And before we get any further, a bit of housekeeping, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video to help us continue to grow the channel and bring great basketball content. This about real actual basketball, and that's what I love about this pod that we're continuing to grow here. So without further ado, I am going to do a quick introduction and then we'll get started for the evening. Tonight on the show we have head coach of SLG and also an AAU level coach. I'm excited. You've probably seen him on a friend of the pod or friend of the channel, Ryan Kaminsky's Learning Basketball, which is a great podcast, and we always love their work. But also just a lot of great basketball analysis and content as well. A great follow on X. I'm pleased to bring to the stage Coach CT Fazio. Welcome.
Morris, how you doing? Thanks for having me on tonight. Appreciate it. Looking forward to breaking down the Nuggets with you.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're here. We're going to talk about the revamped Denver Nuggets offense this season. I'm excited about it, and I will also plug another Narratives Per Possession podcast episode we had actually earlier, at this point, probably like a month and a half ago. We had Swiper from Mile High Sports, and he covers, delivers great Denver Nuggets coverage. So from a broader just season preview and progress at that point, definitely recommend checking that out. But we want to get specifically into the Nuggets offense tonight. And before we bring up the film, sort of a good contextual question to pose to you just to set the stage for it. From your vantage point, you're a Nuggets fan. You covered the Nuggets as well. How would you characterize what the Denver Nuggets offense was in the previous 2024-25 season? And obviously with some tumult towards the end, right, with the whole sales transition of coaching staff and front office.
Definitely. I think it's tough to really have like a concrete vision when you have two kind of subsets of the organization not on the same page. And I always equate it to just a general kind of sense, right? If you work in the corporate world as well, if you have two people on the same team that are not really seeing eye to eye or their vision's not aligned, I think that kind of has a trickle-down effect as you go down the list of the organization. And I think that was certainly true with the Nuggets where, the front office and the coaching staff are not on the same page. So kind of tough to have like one kind of vision in totality, to be on that same page and to be in alignment. So I think that's what we saw last year. There's a lot of disconnect on both sides of the ball, not only on offense, but also on defense as well. So I think offensively, there was a lot of stagnation, when it came to just Jokic, being a lot more in the post. The offense wasn't, I would say, as spread out. This year, we're seeing a lot more guys being involved, whether that's Peyton Watson, whether that's Aaron Gordon and his, short stint that he was healthy this year. You're seeing guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. step into the team and have some sort of responsibility and role. Bruce Brown back on the team as well. So I think this year there was kind of more of an emphasis on the team in general being more involved in the offense, not just the Murray and Jokic kind of. That's obviously your two-man punch right there, but you'll have more guys that are capable contributors that can add different facets of their game into the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Ahead of us getting on live tonight, I looked through what you're going to walk us through tonight, and you definitely, that is sort of an overarching theme I see already, is that it's very much a coherent offense, and what I mean by that is you don't have a lot. Some teams, unfortunately, like I'll just pick on something like 5 out is like that's like a staple template, but at the same time, like not everybody really, to me, maximizes the offensive juice out of 5 out, right? Because you'll have a guy's on ball, you might go around the horn, pass the ball, but then like where's the dribble penetration come from? How are they going to create? How are they putting teams in rotation, defensive team, the opponent in rotation? Like I'm just picking on that for example, but to the point that you're bringing up, right? I think what we're going to see tonight that you'll walk us through is there's definitely a lot of interesting ways that the Nuggets offense is keeping all 5 guys engaged and active in the actions, even when it doesn't appear that it should be like an action where everybody has a stake in it.
Definitely, for sure. And I think that kind of brings the buy-in as well, right? On offense, where you have, instead of people just standing in the corners, or you have people just being stationary, right? You have multiple guys who are involved in different actions. And I think that keeps everybody engaged offensively. Whether you get a touch offensively, that whether that creates a bucket, or that's, you're kind of like a fulcrum in the offense to, pass the ball or make an extra play. I think that kind of, I think you could see that this year in the team that has kind of livened up. I think everybody 1 through 5 on that court, where they all share responsibility in the offense, where it's not just Murray and Jokic, being the two guys. Obviously, they're the centric, part of the offense, and the featured guys, of course, because they're, two of the most offensively talented players in the league. But also getting that buy-in and that kind of added reps for the other players on the court as well, I think has added to some of the boon and the Nuggets offense this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, with that, I'll go ahead and bring up the clips to the screen. And yeah, first one up. Yeah. So this is from the very beginning of your clip. So this will be Joker sort of running this pinch post action. And I'll just run through it. Tell me if you want me to stop just to dive in deeper or anything. Basically, yeah, I got the film clicker at this point for you.
Great. No, that sounds great. Yeah, you see here you have Jokic. He's initiating. Look at him point. I kind of pointed that out the other day, where if you want to freeze it there, or just maybe reverse it like a couple seconds, you can see. Look at Jokic. He's telling Straw there, and he's pointing to actually Tim Hardaway to get on the opposite elbow, because the Nuggets going to run their horn set. And then he's telling Julian, if you progress the clip, he's telling Julian right here to run horns, right?
Yeah, you see, yeah.
Jokic he's very demonstrative when it comes to stuff that he wants run offensively. He's basically like a second coach out there, right, when it comes to the offense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's telling exactly. And this is another example, right? If you go, once this progresses a little bit, you got Julian, right? He's running at the top of the key. If we freeze it here, right? You have Julian. He's not a prototypical point guard, right? But he's a guy who has ability to pass the ball, as a guy who's like a secondary creator at times, and he can create his own offense, off the bench, in a pinch.
Yep.
And this is, another example where the Nuggets are kind of short on point guards at the moment. Bruce Brown is technically their backup point guard, but this is another example where you have, like we said before, other guys are getting involved within actions on the offense. So you have Julian here. He initiates the Jokic and then progress the clip a little bit. You have this, if we freeze it right here, right? You have Hardaway back screen. This is like just the typical kind of Horns offense, really. Hardaway actually is a really good guard screener this year from what I've seen. I didn't watch too much of the Pistons last year, but I know he was a really integral part of their kind of kind of rebirth as a team getting to the playoffs, as a starter. And he's come off the bench this year, and he started, here and there. But you see Tim kind of set that back screen. But then if you progress the clip, look, Jokic is going to set him a back, tell him to slip to the rim, right, and gives him that nice feed for a dunk. And we don't see Tim dunk that often at his age, so it's pretty cool to see him kind of, back in the fold dunking the basketball. But this is just another kind of one of their staples offensively. You have Jokic initiating out of the elbow. You have that pass to Julian usually sometimes, but Tim is, he kind of takes advantage of Ant kind of sleeping there a little bit and sets the pick, and then he just back cuts. Or slips for a layup.
Yeah, the slip was beautiful in that. It's just there's always like, I always say, like, people talk about how like American football is a game of inches. I always feel that basketball is a game of seconds. It's just like those one little like 2-second beats there. Like when you can manipulate those things, it just you get good results with that kind of thing.
Definitely, it's all about this is my second year as head coach, and I coached at the 7th and 8th grade level. I tell my players all the time, like, I think not only is offense spacing's offense, but also too, I think timing as well, right? You see that timing of the back pick and the slip by Tim really sets up the play, right? In order for Jokic to give that pass, feeds it to Tim for a layup. I just think timing is everything when it comes to offense, and being patient for sure too as well. Not everything has to be rushed. I think everything with the offense for the Nuggets, especially, they play at a pace in the half court where sometimes they go fast, to get into action. Sometimes they're more methodical in the way they bring it up. But that Horns play is a staple of the Jokic era, and whether that's Murray initiating or Jokic initiating as well. So many different ways you can, operate out of that play.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll take it into the next clip here.
Yep. So this is a game against Houston. This was probably one of the better games, I think, of the NBA season so far. This is something where I think, if you want to freeze it right here, Jonas Valanciunas was a pretty big addition for the Nuggets this year, just because, in years past, DeAndre Jordan or Zeke Naji have been the backup center for the Nuggets, and those guys obviously I think have different, varying strengths, right? I think Zeke Naji is a pretty good switch defender at times, and DeAndre is a good lob threat, right? But he's a guy who obviously is up there in age, and Jonas is a guy whose offense was a really, really big added bonus to Denver this year, as far as a guy who could hit the mid-range jump shot. He can operate at pretty much, I would say, close to all three levels of pick and roll offense. Whether that's a guy who can take you off the dribble, in the short roll, he can hit the mid-range shot, or he can create his own offense out of the post. So I think him and Murray have been a really, really nice pairing off the bench, or even at times when Murray's not playing with the bench. He's someone who can create his own offense and kind of act as like another, I would say like a secondary kind of Jokic out there as well.
Yeah, that's the thing that popped out to me while I was looking at the clips earlier today, and even in this clip we'll see. I have to imagine like having Valanciunas as the backup versus in years past like DeAndre Jordan or other backup fives. There's got to be a plus of having Valanciunas who can, the top of the key is like a Jokic staple in terms of like where he really operates. So having that in there has to do a lot for like those guys. Like, like we were saying, right? So much more continuity or like connectedness among all five guys now is much more of a team-oriented concept this season versus things stagnating. That helps when you just have like a familiar way of the ball being initiated from the top of the key.
Definitely. I think your offense with Jokic, you can kind of almost mimic it a little bit more with Valanciunas out there. But obviously he's not running a lot of the decisions like Jokic is, but he's a guy who can play a little bit more as far as a passer is concerned. But if we freeze right here, so we had basically just a simple handoff into a pick and roll from Valanciunas to Murray. And Murray, obviously is playing at an all-star level this year, career highs across the board. He's a guy who's going to get doubled in pick and rolls because you want to take away his pull-up. You want to take away his ability to get to the mid-range or get to the rim. So in this kind of scenario, if we just keep rolling the clip a little bit, you have two guys there. Is that Shepherd? And I think that's Capella. We freeze that right there. So we had Murray had the skip pass. So he could have hit Valanciunas in the pocket at the top of the key there, but nice skip pass by Murray, who I think has really improved his passing reads this year out of blitzes. So Hardaway gets the ball right there, and then he does a quick kind of like fire pass to Valanciunas for a nice mid-range jump shot. And I think that's just like the kind of like a really good screen by Valanciunas to set up the offense for Murray. And Murray's going to get blitzed a lot of the time when he's not. When Jokic is on the floor, he'll probably get blitzed a little bit, but not as much, just because Jokic is so dynamic in that paint range, as far as his mid-range shot or just his touch from floater range as well. So you want to kind of double Murray to get the ball out of his hands to make somebody else make a play to beat you. But this is just a really nice example of just working the court. Murray takes his time. Kind of drags the defense out as well. If you look at look how far he drags the defense out from center court all the way to the right wing, and just a really nice skip pass. Because if you see here, Şengün has to play in between Valanciunas and Hardaway. He's got to pick which guy he's going to take, and Murray kind of froze him there a little bit to get the ball to Hardaway. Hardaway quick touch pass to Valanciunas for a mid-range shot. Which again, without Valanciunas last year, that's a shot that really none of their backup bigs can hit in prior years. So his addition has been really big time for what Denver wants to do offensively.
Yeah, this single possession is just like it's just showing like the full gamut of like how Valanciunas is valuable to an offense, because he's able to initiate that action from the top of the key. And then just the way he's manipulating to a degree manipulating, but also taking advantage of the space that he's getting from having Murray, take two to the ball with him over to this side of the free throw line extended, and then you have another shooter on the other side. Like like Valanciunas is just having free reign there. I think that's found money for the Nuggets offense this season.
Definitely. If you look at some of those guys we just mentioned as well, Hardaway and Valanciunas, those two guys in particular, I think they've been such an added bonus to Denver's offense off the bench in particular, because, I mean, Denver's leading the league this year in points per game, leading in field goal percentage as well, and also leading in three-point percentage too. And Hardaway, I think he's been a big beneficiary, big contributor toward that. They're kind of middle of the pack as far as their attempts are concerned from three, but leading in those three categories, I think their addition as far as just veterans and guys who are more offensive slanted has been a big help to what Denver wants to accomplish on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's see. Next clip should be coming up after this.
So this is just, if you want to freeze it right there. So this is when Denver gets into their zoom action. And I know we spoke about it at the beginning of the show. This is where the Nuggets really want to emphasize more screening, more ball movement, and kind of getting Murray and downhill more so we can play more in the pocket with Jokic. Jokic's post-ups have really kind of split in half this year, and I think that's by design, just to have the offense be more of a spacing offense and have more, emphasize more ball movement and having more, cutting and just room for the offense to kind of capitalize. But this is just Murray's kind of reading the game ability, and I just really like Murray's reads as far as he can play off the ball as well. Jokic is trying to initiate out of zoom, and Murray reads that where they're overplaying him a bit. If we want to go back a little bit, so Nembhard is a guy who's obviously really a physical defender, and he goes to kind of try to front Murray, right, and then Murray reads it, kind of try to get him to top block Murray. And Murray reads that, so he just backdoors him and slips to the rim. So really good read by Murray there. And obviously, Jokic's brilliance as a passer from the top of the key, just finding that Jokic and Murray are pretty much always in sync as far as what they want to run as far as their two-man game concerned, or who's cutting or slipping to the rim.
Yeah. And I mean, just even right out of the gate, I mean, I feel now we're getting to the third clip. The consistent thing I'm seeing already is just how Denver is now able to lean on these three-man actions.
Mm-hmm.
Just to open up. In a lot of ways, it feels like the three-man actions are opening up so much space for the offense.
Yep, because sometimes that would usually be Gordon, right? If Gordon was healthy, he'd be in that spot that Hardaway's in, as far as the screener is concerned. But Tim has been a great screener this year as far as the guard's concerned, and like we said before, that's kind of emphasizing Denver's all five guys, right, that have utility offensively. If guys can screen, guys can cut, you can pass, just kind of utilizing all five guys on the floor. And you have two guys in the corner, and then you're kind of usually with zoom action, sometimes you want to operate it from the corners. But in this scenario, they're operating it from the middle of the floor, which is trying to get Jokic more on the roll right there instead of using the corner. So have him has more of the middle of the floor. So really good read there by Murray. And you can see the optionality of that, right? Like, you see the top block, Murray backdoor cuts him. Just different scenarios out of these actions that the Nuggets like to use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice lefty finish by Murray there.
Yep. Okay. So, we got the next clip up now.
Yeah. So if you want to go back to the beginning, just to kind of start off from what Cam Johnson does right there. So I would say my main critique last year from the playoffs was Jokic's face-up game. And obviously Jokic is such a diverse and elite offensive talent. There's still room for him, I think, to grow. And I think this was one of the areas, like the last areas that I had of that I wanted to see some improvement. And Cam sets, a little bit of a ram screen there to get Jokic a look from the high post from the elbow. And so you have Jokic. Yep, he faces up right there. And this is such a funny play because he does a little pump fake for Sengun. And he really gets him, right? He gets the pump fake because Jokic is like, he's obviously not a guy who's going to like out jump you other than right there. But he's someone who, like, his jump shot doesn't get like really high off the ground. So you don't really know if he's just going to pull up and shoot it at certain times. So he sells the pump fake there on Sengun. And this is just like a nice middle of the floor. We're gonna clear out, little exit screen on the left for Cam as well. Pump fake, drives right to the rim, and then Jokic posters. I think that's Jabari Smith, right, at the rim.
Yeah, that seemed like it was Jabari Smith. But and that's something that I noticed as well. Yeah, so the setup, here's the optionality again. Yeah, because Joker's gonna have the exit screen read there if he wants it, and but yeah, he's able to just effectively pump fake Şengün and finish it at the rim.
Yep, exactly. So that's just something that I think what's been an added bonus for Jokic this year. And against OKC in particular, I think Jokic struggled at times to face up against some of their more physical defenders. And we're seeing this year that's kind of like been a revamp from Jokic, just adding that face-up game. You know, whether it's he takes a mid-range jump shot where he's wide open, and he's obviously a really good mid-range shooter, or he could turn and face and just dribble right to the hoop. And in this scenario, he dunked it, which is pretty rare for Jokic, but really nice setup there. And even like the play to set it up, you know what I mean? You have a nice ram screen from Cam, exits to the corner. You have Jokic kind of one-on-one against Şengün, and he goes to work and throws down a poster.
Yeah, and it's fun. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned last season against the Thunder in the playoffs. Now I'm envisioning, Jokic feeling more confident and just more in rhythm from getting in more of these face-up reps. That's going to be something that's a solid counter for aggressive style defense that they would expect to see from the Thunder. Just being able to like manipulate that, if they want to overcommit or try, collapse on him to get the ball out of his hands. You're gonna have all these different options waiting there for Jokic. So you can't really go with the mindset, oh, let's take away his passing. Like, it's gonna be different looks that he's passing to now.
And it's really hard to double from the middle of the floor. Like this was, I think, a criticism of mine last year with all the post ups, right? If you post Jokic up from the elbow, right, or if you post him up at the right block or left block, it's kind of easier, I think, to double team,
you can send help from the corner on that.
Exactly. So I think from the middle of the floor, it's really tough to double team just because of like where you're at on the floor. And you're very vulnerable to cutters as well. So really nice play designed this year to get Jokic a nice bucket.
Absolutely. All right, so I got the next clip up.
Yep. So this is where Denver goes into their split action, and again, this is just a common theme. You'll hear me be pretty redundant on the show tonight. Is that you have Peyton Watson initiating the offense in this scenario where Peyton played a bit more, I think, on the ball in high school. We're kind of seeing a little bit more of his offensive game blossom this year, especially with some of the injuries that we've seen from the Nuggets rotation where he's gotten that opportunity. So Peyton initiates to Tim, and then if we look at the next play here, this is freeze right there. So you have Jokic gets the ball, right, and he's initiating from the high elbow.
Yeah.
And Peyton goes to basically set a flare, right, for Tim Hardaway's guy. But he sets it, and then it's like we said before, we talked about timing. And if we continue the clip, Peyton back cuts him and slips it, and then Jokic goes this crazy behind the back pass for a Peyton dunk.
Yeah, like when I saw this the first time, the thing that kind of popped out to my head in some ways is almost like they flip-flop Spain. Because it's not a perfect stack there, but I mean, they're both diving after Jokic gets the ball.
Yep, exactly. Yep, there's so many variations of like who can initiate the ball or initiate out of the offense, right? You have Peyton Watson doing it this time. You could have Cam Johnson doing it another time. You could have Bruce doing it another time. Like there's Christian Brown does it when he's in the lineup as well. Aaron Gordon, of course, a good passer. Like there's so much optionality as far as like setting up the offense there. And I think Peyton's gotten really good at that timing of when to slip to the hoop. And pretty crazy Jokic pass there. Like the placement on that pass to get it right where Peyton is pretty crazy to me. Like he just slips right there, and then he sees the cut and he just places it right there. He leads him to he leads Peyton to the pass, which is pretty incredible.
It's very much. I mean, it's like a NFL timing route, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
This play was amazing, and again, the theme that's like just screaming in all these clips is the 3-man actions are just creating so much. It's the optionality, but also just I have to imagine this is confusing the defensive coverage. Like they, how you defend that basically.
Yeah. And it's very tough too when you have a space floor like that. Like you have two guys in the corners in Cam and Bruce, like all the way tucked away in the corner, just creates so much space instead of being on the wing there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's probably one of Jokic's best passes, I think. I don't know about of just this year, maybe of his career, honestly.
Yeah, that's definitely up there. That's all timer he had. Yeah, so
100%.
this one is against the
Yeah.
Warriors. That
So
clip.
this is just, yep, exactly. It's versus the Warriors. And you see, if you want to just go back to the beginning there. So we have Jokic again. He's setting a kind of like just like an off-ball screen for Hardaway to be the first guy in the action. And then they go double drag. And they're setting their screens a lot more higher this year on the floor. And I think that's just to get Murray kind of more runway going down to the hoop.
Yeah.
And if you just want to restart it from the beginning.
Yeah, so the drag is setting. Looks like basically Murray rejects the drag.
Yeah, so Murray, he sees kind of Buddy like angling he's like looking at Tim, right, to try to navigate the screen. And Murray's really, like I said before, Murray's like really good at his reads, whether it's on the ball, off the ball. So then he sees that right there. Jokic sets the kind of little, it's I guess like a pin down off ball screen, and then Murray sees Buddy kind of looking that way, because sometimes they would usually switch that, right? You have Will Richard, who's who I think probably is a better defender than Buddy, just switch that and then go into the action, but Murray rejects that, gets all the way down to the hoop. He's just much more faster this year as well with the ball. And look at that nice show to Jokic as well with the right hand, little nice show, and then goes up to the left.
Beautiful.
Really, really nice finish there by Murray. Yeah, and you have one guy on the dunker spot, and you have another guy in the corner as well. So Denver spacing is always really, really good.
Yeah, it's the things I see like building with each one of these clips. There's the 3-man actions, the space that's being created, and then Murray in particular, he seems to he's reading space exceptionally well. Where he's like his attack is like he's attacking before the space is even there. It feels like he's reading it so fast.
Yep, exactly. And I think this is another kind of prioritizations, I think, from Coach Adelman and the coaching staff, is that they want to use Jokic's gravity a bit more, instead of just putting him in the post, right? You have Jokic as a guy who's dynamic roller, right? So now you have him come out and the paint is wide open. Like if you see the paint, if we kind of like replay it a little bit, the paint's just so open after Jokic sets that screen. He's rolling. Like, look at the paint. There's 3 guys there, but like the paint, the middle of the floor is just so open. Like when you look at the free throw line area, like it's just so open for Murray to get in there and make a play.
Yeah.
It's a really nice finish. Murray's finishing this year has been unreal. Yep. So this is just another play where it kind of just clips some of the screens. Like this is just a middle ball screen, middle of the floor. But look how high Jokic sets the screen. Like they're basically at the logo.
Oh yeah.
And he gets McDaniels off. Really nice screen. Yeah, like Jokic is a really good screen setter. And then if you want to just replay that a little bit, just from when Jokic catches the ball.
Yeah, and it was a good short roll read from Jokic.
Yep. So they have Rudy. He's not putting 2 on the ball, but he's in a drop. Yep, he's in a drop right there. And then you have DiVincenzo kind of cheat over from the corner to take away the roll for Jokic. And then Jokic, obviously, being the playmaker he is, just fires a nice pass to Tim for an open 3. But it's just the intentionality of where Murray's getting the ball, where Jokic is catching the ball, and it's just those ball screens are just so high up the floor that you have so much more space and room to operate, getting a full head of steam going downhill.
Yeah, just a beautiful sequence.
Yep, really nice screening there, and just the 2-man game just has so many opportunities for. Yep, you want to freeze that there? So you have Bruce Brown. I believe that's Rob Dillingham right there, which Denver a lot of the time likes to put Christian Brown. Usually has the worst defender on him in the starting lineup, when they're playing in high leverage games. So you have, if you want to freeze right there, you have Murray and Bruce run an inverted pick and roll where Bruce is screening for Jamal to get the matchup that he wants, and that's to get Dillingham onto him so he can go one-on-one and kind of make a play for himself or make a play for somebody else.
Yep.
So if you want to just keep rolling, and then Murray gets downhill and just a very easy layup. It's just matchups and intentionality of like how Murray's going to operate. The Nuggets staff, especially with the bench, just really kind of want Murray to get optional matchups so he can attack, and he's really capitalized on that this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just seeing a ton of just good Jamal Murray attacking.
Yeah. And then we see this again, like Jokic is kind of at the logo again. And then Murray just goes right to the rim for a layup. But if you want to replay that a little bit, we just see here, like, look how the defense, obviously Randall's not really the best pick and roll defender, but if you see Ant, like, he's worried about Jokic's role. And this is just where I talked about with Jokic's gravity, is that he's just such a dynamic roller and someone that you have to kind of put bodies on just to make sure he's like doesn't catch the ball or he's not kind of making decisions with the ball, is that Murray's able to capitalize off that. And that's just something that I've noticed in particular that the Nuggets staff has really kind of emphasized this year, is like not only having Jokic as a post-up guy, having him operate on different sides of the floor and kind of using his ability as a gravity player. We look at like Steph, right? Steph's a player who like teams want to send so many bodies at just because there's so much gravity and he's such a dangerous shooter. Jokic is the same way, where he's so dangerous in that floater range that teams just don't want to leave him there, which allows Murray to have a free kind of lane to the rim.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed by the versatility that we're seeing in the Nuggets offense. I think back to the title run for the Nuggets, and you have to give them credit. Like, they just had a invincible dribble handoff attack that it felt like the Nuggets were constantly just daring defense to stop Joker and Murray DHO, and nobody can stop it basically. And it seems to be an evolution there, where it's not so much of that anymore, but you're seeing this just diverse array of 3-man actions and just well-timed ball screens that are getting so much pressure to the rim now.
Exactly. And I think that was some of the issues, I think, over the past few years, is that the Nuggets offense kind of didn't really evolve much. I think at times it was, but they had such a dynamism, right? And I think teams started to scout them a bit more and more that I think that now we're seeing this year there's a bit more of an evolution and kind of more intentionality as far as how the offense is going to operate and different wrinkles that are being thrown in. So, which has been great to see. And I think that's been such a huge focal point as far as the Nuggets offense being so dynamic, is scoring the most points in the league, best 3-point percentage. It's just like where the Nuggets are getting their looks from has been really important.
Yeah, 100%.
And this is usually a team that the Nuggets struggle with the Wolves as far as scoring against them, as we saw in the playoffs over the last few years. But yeah, this is Murray again, just kind of weaving through the defense, and he's been so good this year. It's just able to kind of pick apart defenses. But if you want to go back to the beginning of this clip, this is again where we have Nuggets are in double drag with Tim Hardaway he's setting the first screen, and then Valanciunas he didn't really set it. He sets like a second one basically a little bit. Like Murray kind of comes off it, doesn't use the Valanciunas screen, then uses it again, and then you have Gordon creeping along the baseline for the reverse poster on Naz Reid there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's just Murray, like, he's able to weave in and out of defenses. And this is, again, a matchup where if you're doing double drag, you want to get Conley involved in that action, just because his defense has obviously fallen off since he's aged. But Denver gets the matchup they want, put Conley in the pick and roll. And then, obviously all eyes, if you want to go back a little bit in that clip, it's just look at all the eyes at Murray. Like, there's like 5 guys looking at Jamal, and then once he gets in the paint as well, Murray's just been able to be like a walking paint touch this year. And like, look at Naz Reid, he's looking at Murray and he's like, oh man, Gordon, back up me. And then he throws it down a dunk on him. So
yeah.
That's just Murray's brilliance in the pick and roll. And just a guy I think he's leveled up as a passer, but he's a guy who's also getting to the paint a lot more out of the Nuggets actions.
Yeah. Gordon's back cut is funny too, because I mean, he's really like tiptoeing into the dunker spot. Yeah. It wasn't like it was just a hard back cut. He tiptoed into it. That just made me laugh when I saw it the first time.
Yeah. His cutting has just been like all over on offense. He's really leveled up. It's just his awareness of where to be and how to kind of get easy baskets.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, we got another clip here.
So this is
Rockets.
Yep. So if you want to, we could kind of just go through this quickly. And then we'll redo it. This is just Cam Johnson's a guy he's kind of been able to, I'd say, accelerate the Nuggets' attack offensively, as far as a guy who can kind of make decisions with the ball. whether that's in pick and rolls or kind of off handoffs and things like that. If you want to go back to the beginning of the play, I think we spoke about this earlier, right? You have now Jalen Pickett. He hasn't really played as much this year, but he initiates the offense. This play is called Touch Miami. He gives the ball to Valanciunas, and then it's kind of like a quick handoff, and then Pickett screens KD out of the way, and then Cam with a nice lefty pass to Valanciunas for a layup. That's just, you see Valanciunas just kind of paint offense on display there. As a guy who's just able to carve out so much space. But I just like this play in particular because the Nuggets are able to kind of get downhill.
Yeah.
I kind of like to call this almost like a weave, but it's only two guys.
Yeah. And in some ways, this is like a refreshed version. I just mentioned, like, the staple of the title year was all those Joker Murray DHOs, but this one, it just gives it like a fresh. It's like a refreshed version of the concept.
Yes, and especially with other players as well. And if you look at on the right side of the floor, you have Bruce and Zeke kind of sets like an action, just like a fake kind of exit.
They're faking a pin down. Yeah,
exactly.
Into the exit. Yeah,
exactly. So you're just getting kind of more like action off ball where you're kind of occupying other defenders. But I just really like this play as far as you're able to get downhill. Cam gets 2 feet in the paint. Nice lefty dump off to Valanciunas for what he does best, finishing around the paint.
Yeah. I mean, all five guys are moving. This is ball movement. This is player movement. This is a great action to have up your sleeve, just to, if you need to like reboot the offense just to get something. That's a great one to go to.
Exactly. Yep. You get player movement, you get paint touches, and you get guys playing downhill, which is great. But this is something, again, where this is Denver split action, and they've just ran it with, like we said before, with so many assortment of different players, right? You have Murray and Cam Johnson in this mix, in this alignment, right? Sometimes you'll have, like we saw before, Peyton Watson and Tim Hardaway Jr. You'll have Bruce Brown. You'll have Christian Brown. You'll have Aaron Gordon. There's so many guys who can help run this offense with Jokic being the fulcrum. But in this particular instance, if we go back just to look at this play from the beginning, this is just Murray. Quick entry pass to Jokic at the elbow. Jokic obviously is a really good passer from the elbows. A lot of their offense is out of horns at the elbows. And Murray enters the ball to Jokic right there, and then Cam sets like a little bit of a flare for Murray, and then he slips it, right? And this just slips at the time where it's like you can't even think if you're going to switch it or not with Keon there. Keon's kind of late to I think it's Keon and Russ, right? And Russ sometimes has a tendency to, sleep off the ball. So Cam sets it, and then Russ goes to switch onto Murray. Keon and Russ miscommunication there.
Yeah.
Nice dunk from Cam. And look how quick that is, too. Like, it's just such a quick, like, it's like you're here. Quick screen. I'm going to slip. Easy dunk. Just such easy offense there. And they have two guys in the corner occupying those two other defenders.
Absolutely, yeah. Just the optionality dynamism. What Cam Johnson does there, because he could have, like, at first glance, you could have said, "Oh, is he about to run Iverson cut across to get to the other wing?"
Yep.
But then just on that dime turn, like, to just dive that quick, and Jokic is able to hit him. Like,
yep.
Yeah, Cam Johnson, like, he's such a savvy basketball player in that regard.
Exactly. And the Nuggets ran this a little bit last year too with Gordon. MPJ obviously was pretty good as a cutter as well out of that split action too, just because of his dynamism as a shooter. And you see that with Cam as well. Cam obviously is a really good shooter. Kind of fits right into the Nuggets offense as a guy who can operate in split action. So those are a couple of my favorite plays from this year. It's definitely the Touch Miami play where you have like a little bit of a weave action out front. That's kind of a new wrinkle in the Nuggets playbook. And then the Nuggets split action is one of my favorite plays too. We just have so much optionality. You have all these guys that are involved in the different plays, right? It's not just Murray and Jokic. You have so many different guys other than the two star players that you can add into that offense. And I like when everybody's touching the basketball, right? You have multiple guys who are involved in the offense, whether that's just a pass or whether it's a cut and finish. But I like having it be everybody's involved, offensively. Absolutely. I think that makes you more dangerous to guard as well offensively for the Nuggets, where they kind of, I think, got too Murray Jokic centric last 2 years post title. So it's good to have kind of that more optionality. And I think going to the playoffs, that'll really help them as well. Having guys who are experienced, playing in different actions, playing in different kind of alignments and fronts out there. So I think come playoff time, that can only help them.
Yeah, it looks like the Nuggets offense. I mean, there's more meat on the bone for sure this season, where you at least that's going to help keep the opposing defense honest on you.
Yeah,
Where they're
exactly.
not just going to simplify it. They're like, okay, we're just going to load up on Joker and Murray every possession and make the other guys beat us.
Right. And I think there's still, some questions as far as like creation concerns, right? Murray is obviously they're probably one of, if not their only kind of backcourt creator as a guy who could get his own shot. But I do think of some of these actions you have that could be mitigated a bit as far as just the passing and cutting and the movement, operating out of these different alignments. So I think that's definitely still a question as far as the backcourt creation is concerned. But I do like some of the wrinkles that they've put in offensive, and I think they can help them come playoff time.
Yeah. To that point, maybe this is a good way to sort of tie it all together and wrap it up. We're starting to get into that. We're basically in the unofficial trade deadline season as we're looking into February, and then playoffs in mind. It is what would be like the ideal sort of trade deadline move you would want to hope the Nuggets accomplish going into February.
Yeah, I mean, they're top 3 in the West right now, and they've had a bunch of their guys who've been out for injury. Cam Johnson just got hurt. Gordon and Christian Brown have missed like a big chunk of the year so far, and the fact that they're in the 3rd spot right now is pretty impressive, considering that they're playing like Spencer Jones, the 2-way guy, and he started like the majority of their games since Gordon went out, and he's really held his own, which is impressive. I mean, if I were to probably say a trade deadline move that they can make would be for a guard. I'm not sure who, but definitely some like a backup point guard that could create their own shot a little bit just for like extra creation purposes. I think as far as wings are concerned, they have enough. They have Gordon, they have Christian Brown, they have Spencer Jones. He'll probably be a guy who's maybe getting in the playoffs. Cam Johnson when he comes back. Maybe another guard defender, maybe like a 2-way kind of creator / maybe like decent point of attack defender, in the backcourt. Yeah. Not sure who that guy would be, but probably another creator. Considering it, I think Bruce has aged a little bit. You can kind of tell this year, but he's still someone who's pretty viable and valuable to what Denver wants to do. So probably another creator.
The name that comes to mind is actually me thinking back to when I had Swiper on. I'm a lifelong Chicago Bulls fan, and I know Swiper is high on Ayo Dosunmu.
Yes, he is.
So that might be, if there was somebody just rattling off some of the things that you mentioned. Ayo's good for that in the
That'd
sense
be fantastic.
I mean, he played point in college.
Yes.
He's really evolved into more of a wingish type player at the NBA level, but he could definitely give a lot of those things. And honestly, he should be up for a 6th man of the year candidate for how he's played. Like the kind of scoring he's bringing off the bench has been amazing this season.
Definitely. And I think in Denver, he wouldn't be more of like a pure point. He'd be like a combo kind of guard, and he can kind of run more offense with Valanciunas and Jokic. So I think that would fit him perfectly if he were, able to be traded to Denver. I think that'd probably be like the ideal scenario there. But yes, me and Swiper have always discussed Ayo as a guy. He's always been a big fan of him, so I think that'd be a perfect addition.
Yeah. Well, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you making the time. I'm glad the weather cooperated with us as well here in the tri-state area. Anything you want to plug before we get out? Anything you're working on? Anything people should know about?
Yeah, no, thanks more for having me on. Appreciate it. The show has been great, watching the show and everything. So thank you for having me on tonight to break down the Nuggets. This was a great time. I started my YouTube channel this year, Court Talk with CT. I've kind of been hit or miss with the episodes just because I've been so busy coaching and, working. I work in the corporate world as well. So it's been a tough balance to kind of balance that out. We're like in full swing right now with the season for basketball. So, definitely we'll be posting more on the channel moving forward. Sometimes write articles here and there for crownhoops.com. And we'll be releasing some draft content coming up for the NBA draft for 2026. So got some stuff in store for the new year coming up. So looking forward to sharing with everyone.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that as well. So yeah, definitely everybody follow CT on X, follow his YouTube channel as well. We have that in the show notes here. I will just close with one again. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. Subscribe to Narratives Per Possession on YouTube because we're here to connect you better basketball narratives. And I'll also say, if you happen to be a coach at any level out there as well, would love to have you on this show because this is the show that is near and dear to my heart to really just bring a higher bar of basketball conversation to the world because we all need that. I think we all want that, especially with NBA hoops in particular. So that's all we got for tonight. Thank you again, CT, and would love to have you back on this. Or also, there's probably some narratives per possession, the other pod. I would love to have you on there for that as well. Once we get into the playoffs.
Definitely, for sure. Anytime. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Thanks, Morris. You too.